welcome to Lay It Out, the No Bullshit Science podcast.
With extra bullshit.
I'm Curie.
And I'm Alice.
And she's Demelza.
Hi.
We need something here.
We do, don't we?
So every time
it's like we're expecting a round of applause, but there is no round of applause.
Yeah, every time it's really like...
Can we get like an audience app where we can click
applause?
In,
like in sitcoms and stuff when they put the fake laughter in.
We should get that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And we can put in loads of fake laughter.
Yeah. Okay, so we've just spent literally about 10 minutes trying to decide what we're going to talk about because we don't have much to talk about.
Because since season 2 has started, we've been, which is only actually one episode, we're acting as though we're like 5 in or something. But, you know, we've been a bit disorganised.
Yeah, there hasn't really been a lot going on.
We started off strong with all our changes.
Yeah, I know. But I thought we could... Did you want to talk about your plants?
Well, considering this will now have been the 3rd time we'll have discussed my plants. For those of you who weren't there for the first 2 discussions, I have some new plants. And they're called Gloria and Kev. And they're great. And I really enjoy them. And I feed them coffee. And that's about all you need to know.
See, I said that you can use coffee as a fertiliser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, you believed me. Other people didn't believe me.
Okay, I believe you too.
Yeah.
So, and it's great because it's like not fresh coffee. So it's like you make yourself a coffee. So it's like an excuse to have a coffee as well.
Yeah.
So you make yourself a coffee and then you put so it's zero waste as well.
Nice, we like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of zero waste and the earth.
And changes in bus routes.
You may have all heard about the news about the Extinction Rebellion protests that are going on in London.
Which actually will probably be old news by the time this is published.
Probably.
But still.
This will be... Yeah, because this episode will be... Well, no, this episode will be out in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And...
They finish up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks of them.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. And you know what? Okay, so this is my stance on it.
Go on.
I support the thing, right? I support the cause. If they push, like, all these new legislations and all this shit to happen, I get it. But it's also really annoying because I needed to get a lot of buses over the past 2 days. And because they have chained themselves to lorries right in the middle of Waterloo Bridge...
What's going on?
Yeah, that's why all the buses by Waterloo are fucked.
Oh, shit.
So I couldn't get anywhere... on the said buses that I needed to get.
Sadly.
And also, the thing is, it's annoying because I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is really annoying because I need to get these buses because I have places to fucking be.
But that's the point they're trying to make.
Exactly.
Yes.
But then I'm like, oh no, but this is it. Like,
You're like, well, now I'm a saint.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, no, this is what's meant to happen.
It's like the dawn of realization.
Yeah.
Oh.
But then I'm annoyed again because every journey I need to make...
Because you still need to get to where you
is so much more complicated. And yeah, and then I was speaking to my supervisor about it earlier as well, and she was saying how she doesn't understand why they've superglued themselves to the DLR.
What the fuck? What?
Yeah,
that's really stupid. Their skin?
No, I think it's their clothes.
That's still really worrying. Clothes, like super glue goes through clothes.
Okay, I added the super, but it is glue.
Well, that makes a whole complete other argument.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay,
so...
reverse all that concern I had just now. If it's glue, it's fine.
Because the DLR actually doesn't contribute much to emissions and stuff.
Because it's electric?
I don't know.
Silent Demelza.
Silent Demelza's too busy doing other work to pay attention to what we're talking about. Although it's very important work, so...
We keep telling her that she can't go on ASOS, and she keeps vehemently denying that she goes on ASOS.
Vehemently?
Vehemently.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, vehemently.
Is it not vehemently?
No.
Ooh.
Vehement.
How do you say it?
I've never said it out loud before.
It's like vehicle. Is that not how you say it?
No. Wait, are you being serious?
No.
Oh my god.
That's not how I say it either.
I think that might be the funniest thing you've ever said.
What? I've said way funnier things than
I don't know, that was quick. That was really quick.
Okay, I've definitely said funnier, but okay.
Anyway, yeah. Do you have anything to say about the protests?
No, I agree with everything you said. You taught me a few facts. I didn't realise they were
So they've
glued to the DLR
the
or
police-
chained to lorries. I really should do a bit of Googling, shouldn't I?
So another fact I learned today: about 300 people from the protest have been arrested so far. Released with no charges, obviously.
Okay.
And then the leader of the group came out and was like, "We have thousands more members who are prepared to be arrested."
Ooh. Well, I suppose that's like one of the risks you run when you protest, isn't it?
Especially such a big one like them. Have you seen the pictures of the pink boat?
No.
They've
I'll
parked
Google
like
it.
a massive boat. I don't know where. Somewhere near Oxford Street, I think.
Well, I just Google pink boat protest.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like a
And
proper...
it says it's a submarine.
Yeah, it's... Oh, tell the truth.
Oh, powerful. It is an Oxford Circus.
Shall we introduce our guest then? How many minutes are we?
What?
Oh, okay.
8?
We're not 8 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What else can I talk about? Oh, I'm going on holiday.
We don't have to fill the 8 minutes.
But I do actually want to talk about my holiday.
Okay.
I'm going on holiday. And I have to get up really early. So it's going to be like when you're a kid and you're going to the airport and your parents wake you up at like, I don't know, like 5 a.m. But you think it's like midnight and it's super exciting.
Except that you have to get yourself up and you also
Yeah.
don't have your parents to take you to the airport.
Correct, yeah. I have to get a coach. I have to get a coach to Stansted at 3 a.m. So that's going to be fun. But then I get to hopefully lie on a beach for 5 days.
In the cold.
Except it's going to be cold. And I've been really keeping an eye on the weather because we go to the same spot every year around the same time. And funnily enough, this weekend in the UK is set to be, you know, a bit of a scorcher. Meanwhile, in the coast of Spain, where I will be, there are thunderstorms forecast. So, guess who's going to come back with a tan? Watch this space.
You should just never leave me. This is a sign.
We'll see.
Okay, can we introduce our guest now?
Yes.
Okay, so today we have a science guest.
Sorry.
All right. So this is someone who's in our building. By our building, I mean mine and Silent Demelda's building, which is
Not my building.
It's a neuroscience building. So we're going to talk about some brains.
So he's a neuroscientist, but that's all I know because I've had an embargo on questioning the whole way through
all
the meal.
questioning.
It was very difficult.
So today we have a fellow PhD student, Ricky.
Hey. Don't really know
You've
how
been
to
really
respond.
holding it in.
Oh my
Yeah,
I'm
there wasn't.
impressed.
god, that was a
'Cause
killer.
We actually didn't tell you, but you are actually allowed to laugh.
Oh, I didn't know
But
that.
you were silent laughing. I was really impressed.
Yeah, I was impressed too.
My stomach really hurts now.
Oh well, there.
Thanks.
You know, we've given you an ab workout
Yeah.
in the process, so it's fine.
Digesting the food.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Oh, we didn't talk about the food. Are we talking about the food? There's not really much to talk about. Although we did have some delicious cookies.
we did.
We had a big cookie debate, and we've decided that the raspberry and white chocolate cookies from Sainsbury's are either, in Ricky's opinion, a 4 out of 10, or in Curie's
What?
opinion, he has very high standards apparently. In Curie's opinion, the second best cookies
Ever.
from a supermarket. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Oh, maybe Sainsbury's should sponsor us.
I mean,
I
Do
just
they?
given them a 4 out of 10. I
Well,
don't
Yeah, but
think-
you're not here all the time. It's fine.
our next guest will give you a 10 out of 10 if you sponsor us.
I also, Sainsbury's, if you're listening, which you're
Which you're
probably
not.
please bring back your lemon and white chocolate cookies. They were so, so good. When they came out, honestly, I think I had about a pack a day for about a week. I got really fat.
I mean, they really don't appeal to me whatsoever.
We're trying to be sponsored here.
Sorry. They're delicious.
Well, there's that gone.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, okay, Ricky, back to you. So this episode is all about you. So
No pressure or anything. Totally chill.
uh,
Can I ask questions now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, here it is.
Here we go. But this is going to be one of those occasions where I'm like, yes, I can ask questions. And then I have a mind blank. But no, first question. What floor do you work on?
So I work on the first floor of the wall,
Oh.
which
Okay.
is all neurodegeneration as far as I know. So all the Alzheimer's disease people and all the ALS people are down there.
Fascinating. Just the two? Or is there more neurodegeneration going on?
I think that's it.
They're the main
The
ones.
Parkinson's ones are, some of them are on the ground floor, but they're more clinical. So we tend not to mingle.
I see. Interesting. Now, what was my next question? So you were part of the ALS group.
I am, yes. So I was with Chris Shaw's team as a research assistant, and then I got offered towards the end of 2017 a PhD. So my supervisor is Brad Smith, so he works between Guy's and here as well. So I'm still team ALS.
So pause there.
Yes.
Let's take it back a few years. Now we've established that you're doing a PhD.
Yep.
How did your science career start? From the moment you came out of your mother's womb to now in the first year of your PhD, finishing the first year of your PhD.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask.
You want me to go back to how I got into undergrad as well? Or
Well, kind of like, usually we go back to school and like, were you interested in science? You don't need lots of detail. Don't be raising the eyebrows that far. It just needs to be like, oh yeah, I liked science.
Such a traumatic journey.
You're like, oh god, no, I've buried these memories.
No, it was great. So in school, I did like triple science for GCSEs because I was a massive science geek.
I did triple science.
Loved science, everything about it. It was cool and whatever. But at the same time, I played cricket and I played for Leicestershire. And had a sponsorship contract as well with Grey Nichols International
also,
for 2
that
years.
is such a stereotype.
What, brown guy? Yeah, it changes very quickly as I get older, as you know.
You're like, wait, curveball, plot twist.
Give it 10 years.
So were you torn between the cricket world and the
I really
science
was,
world?
yeah. So throughout GCSEs, so I did average for GCSEs. I got like two Bs and the rest Cs, not even average, like below par. And then I got into college, did biochem, maths, economics, still played cricket, and then in my first year of my A-levels, I think I ended up doing really bad. So when we say really bad, I mean like 1 U and 3 Ds.
Oh, fucking hell, that is really bad.
I don't actually know what that means, but
You've basically failed.
I'll take
Yeah,
it.
pretty much failed. So I had to retake everything, had loads of exams, and then I had to decide, like, do I want to play cricket or try and make it professionally or not? So sacked that in. All of a
Was
sudden,
the reason you did badly because you were focusing on cricket?
to a degree, yes.
So wait, hang on. If you had failed all your A-levels, but you were doing fairly well in cricket, why did you decide to go for your A-levels rather than...
Because these were AS levels, so the first year. And it was actually a cousin of mine who said, when I was fully in the cricket thing, he goes, so let's just say, hypothetically, you break your leg. What are you going to do for work then if you're a professional sportsman? And I was like...
I think the exact same thing. Like, whenever I've talked about children, or my future children, I always think, even if they're super talented at something, and they have this chance to be like this super megastar in something, I still want them to get a qualification. So they at least have something to fall back on.
Yeah, and that's the mindset I eventually took. And I was like 17, I think, when I realised, like, went to the head coach at the cricket in Leicestershire and whatever, and I was like, look, I'm just going to withdraw from the team. I'm not doing this. Did my A-levels, got into biomedical science. I'd studied in Leicester, so I went to De Montfort Uni and did it there. 3 years of undergrad. Did not drink in my first year of undergrad.
What?
There's a spoiler.
That's really surprising.
all.
Did you say that was in Leicester?
Yes.
Where's Leicester?
Midlands, near Birmingham.
Okay.
Ish. Yeah, so that always gets people. And I had my first drink was a Sambuca shot at the end of our
easing yourself into things.
fourth exam at the end of my first year in May.
No way.
That was my first drink with uni people.
That's hilarious.
And I was smashed because I was playing pool and seeing 2 cue balls. So there's a fun fact.
Did you drink
After that one shot, yeah?
Yeah, literally after that one shot.
So that was the first time you'd ever drunk?
Well, I've tried bits and things like that, but a full measure of alcohol or units or whatever you want to call it, yeah, technically.
So why didn't you drink through the whole first year of
Because
uni?
I was always playing sport in school and whatever in college, so that would slow me down and whatever. And then first year uni, I was always studying because I only wanted to go to med school, so I had that in my head. I was like, I really want to do med school, but I was like, shit, I got really useless A-levels, and I'm going to have to do really well in this degree and then do it as a graduate.
I think literally everyone that did science at school was like med school.
Oh, but I was wrong. Thank God I didn't.
That's what
I'm
most
so
people
happy.
say too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later on, yeah. And then, so the whole of uni passed, and I got into 2014 and finished my exams. And then, like, summer 2014, so the year before, I signed up to do a charitable trek. So
where?
summer 2014, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Cool.
for charity, which was the best experience of my life.
You know, I signed up to do that at uni, and then I couldn't be asked to do the fundraising for it.
Oh, shocking.
Carrie.
Yeah, so I didn't do it.
Oh my god, those cookies are so phlegmy.
I know.
I don't know what it is.
Oh.
Could you not hear me there? I was like,
It's like
my voice wasn't coming out.
Um,
Okay, go back.
But I mean, you needed to raise a lot of money. It was like
I did. It was
over
like
$1,000 or
2,500.
something.
Mine was
Yeah.
like 2,000 something. But anyway, did that. At the same time, was applying for the Masters in Clinical Neuroscience at King's.
Mm-hmm.
Just as I came down from the mountain, I checked on like a friend.
On my way down the mountain.
As I was like literally rolled down at one stage because I was so deprived of oxygen. Two porters ran after me and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" I had like 4 paracetamol and like a codeine or something
Oh, God.
just to ease the pain.
Ugh.
But anyway, I'm alive. And I
Live
found
to
out
tell the tale.
I got into my MSc at King's. So I was like, woo! After 6 days of not showering, we all had a beer together.
That's nice.
So come October 2015, started in my MSc. That went by, and I knew what I wanted to do. So my undergrad project was in ALS, where I worked with zebrafish. And so I came to King's, and I was like, I really want to do ALS. So I hunted 3 or 4 people. And one of them was Chris Shaw, who replied to my email saying, come to my lab meeting, have a look at what you want to do, and then maybe approach a postdoc or student. So I was like, great, he seems like a great guy. Let's give that a go. Went there and found the guy who ended up being my supervisor, Yun Bok Lee. So that was great. And we had a great chat, and it worked well. But that was that.
Your supervisor for
MSc.
your MSc project?
Yep.
And that was in ALS. So that was in
It
the
was.
lab where you're now doing your...
Yeah,
slightly
the same
different,
group
same-
of people,
yeah.
basically, yeah. And then, so I finished my MSc 2015, went back to Leicester, and I was like, cool, I've got 2 degrees and no job.
Mm-hmm.
So, ended up going to the job centre to sign on after
nice.
like 7 weeks at home. And it dawned on me when the woman opposite me, who was offering me advice and part therapy, was was like, oh, don't worry, we had a neurosurgeon from Iran turn up the other week to sign up. And I was like, cool. And the guy next to me was complaining that he didn't want to work in a bar.
What's wrong with working in a bar?
I did bar work for 3 years at undergrad. It was
that's
great.
great.
It was really fun. But yeah, so I was kind of out of a job, and it was a lecturer who emailed me because one of my friends was her PhD student who said, hey Ricky, heard you're bored at home. I've got a temporary position or full-time for 3 months if you want to be apply for the RA position. So I did, and then I got it.
Oh, wow.
And that was Caroline Vance, so who's now my second supervisor.
Nice.
Also my therapist. Genuine, not even joking. So I worked for her for like a few months, but then had to work a second job. And then Chris Shaw at the time realised and saw me like working crazy hard, and there was a postdoc leaving on a drug trial. So he, instead of getting another postdoc, he just said if I want to do it. So I ended up doing mouse work and doing the animal license course and everything.
Nice.
Getting the license and transferred onto a full-time contract. So was
that as a research assistant as well?
Yeah. So I was with Caroline for about, let's say, 4 to 6 months, and Chris for like 18 to 20. So for 2 years I did research. And during 2017, so 2017 I call like the year that didn't happen, because it was like my death year. Like I had a breakdown, everything went from bad to worse. So in all, not many people know this, but I've had 13 PhD applications,
Oh, God.
13 failed ones, and 1 withdrawal, with 7 interviews. 2 of which were in the lab I was working in, and it just really didn't go well, and they didn't pick me.
Yeah.
Like whatever the reasons were, I mean, I'm here now.
Yeah.
But it was horrific.
I'd
And
say that was so shit, though, as well, because you would see the person who did get it
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
come in.
And I saw those people come in and whatever, and then I was like, carried on doing my job,
Yeah.
And then I think 6 weeks later, it like dawned on me that, wait, this has actually got to me. And like my mental health just went down and down and down until I was in bed, and I was like, I don't even want to go to the gym. And I'm the person who used to get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym
I'm sorry I laughed
during my
at that.
MSc. No, but it's true.
I'm sorry, but it's like, because I thought you were going to be like, I don't want to wake up anymore. But I don't want to go to the gym.
Everyone has different measures.
I know, but like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
He went on to say
Like,
he was the
you were
person who used to
literally-
get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, no, you were literally just talking about how depressed you got, and I'm there like...
So one thing Curie is not is your therapist.
Yes, we can certainly say that. So yeah, and then I went to the GP and he recommended time off. So I got a note, handed it in, and took 2 weeks off. And it was like proper serious. I just thought like, oh yeah, mental health, it's like all in your head. But then when it happened to you, it was like, whoa.
As someone who's in neuroscience, you should know better than it's all in your head.
Yeah, well, sometimes you just don't know until it happens to you.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, that all happened. And then my current supervisor, Brad, so actually one of the failed projects was with him as well. And it just turns out I got stopped by Chris in the hallway once and he was like, have you spoke to Brad? I was like, no, why? And he goes, you need to talk to him. He might have a project. And I was like, in my head, I was like, oh God, not again. Here we go.
Yeah.
Is this lucky number 14? And me and Brad were like always really, really busy at stages. And we went for like 2 months till we eventually organised a meeting at London Bridge at New Hunt's house. And I remember it so vividly that I had a coffee, he had one, and he bought me a blueberry muffin as well. And he was like, so is there a project you're applying for, anything you're doing? And I was like, yeah, so another lecturer had a project at the time and I really wanted it. Read all the papers, was going for it and everything. And he goes, but you have to apply for that, right? I go, yeah. And he goes, the difference is I'm giving this project to you and offering it to you so you can just start. It's yours. Do you want it? And I was like, oh, shit. Okay, that's very different. So at that stage, I was either going to... Because I was at like the end point. I was like, well, fuck this. Fuck academia. Fuck everything. Fuck this shit. So I was like, I'm going to fly to Tibet and become a monk.
No.
Or the opposite end of the spectrum. So I do martial arts as well. So I was like, I'm going to train martial arts professionally and just look to compete in MMA or something like that, or professional stick fighting. Neither or happened. And I ended up going with option number, what would have been 1, which was get a PhD. And then started 2018. And then 2018 was fucking sick.
Ah, nice. So you went for the one that he was offering you at that time?
Yeah.
And had he explained it to you? Did you know
He explained
it? Or were you just like, yes, I'll take it?
No, you know what the first thing I said? I'd learned from my mistakes. And the first thing I said when he offered it to me, he was just like, oh, so do you want to do it? I go, that's cool. When does it start? He goes, the stipend actually starts in June 2018. I go, well, my contract ends in a month because it's in November. So what do you want me to do for 4 months? He goes, I can get something amended, a grant, and you can start in February. So effectively, you start the PhD in February. And I was like, if you do that, it's a yes. But I need to see something in writing.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and he went, fair enough.
Yeah.
He just completely got it. And I was like, because at that point, I was like, so many people said this and that, and I had so many phone calls with people and them promising me this or asking this and that and the other. And I was just like, I'm sick and tired of that.
Yeah.
If it's not on paper or I don't see it in an email where I can trace back, then I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You're just another person who's just saying something.
Empty promises.
You know, like, I think props to you for staying in a lab that rejected you twice.
And also just for persisting through all of that.
Yeah, so a good thing, I eventually had a meeting with Chris because one of the students who was in his lab, Martina, who's now postdocing in the States, she said, this isn't right, man. You need to go and talk to him and tell him what's going on and what's going on with you. So I talked to him and it was like as if I was just like screwing at him for 45 minutes. But that needed to be said. And he said to me as well, after I got Brad's project, he goes, let me just tell you something. When I was applying for like grants and things like that, I got rejected 6 times in a row before I eventually got my first grant. And he goes, one of the people that like mentored me or something said to me that, look, Chris, you're pain in the ass persistent. And he goes, I'll say exactly the same thing to you. Like the amount of meetings we've had and the amount of times you've been told no, but you're like, no, that's not an answer.
Yeah.
That's not an option for me. So that was really nice of him to say. He still every now and then checks up and he's like, all that. So it's all good. A lot of people are like, oh, but the journey's been so rough. And a few of my friends who were always there for me on nights out were always saying, oh yeah, but I can't believe you stayed there. I was like, look, things happen. Everything's a lesson in the end.
Yeah.
Like, this happens in academia, I'm pretty sure, all the time. I know some friends who are doing PhDs and their supervisors like, if you don't have this data to me by 8 a.m, then, well, you don't get a reference for whatever you want to do or you can't go to the conference. And they send it them at like 10 p.m. at night, the night before. So shit could be worse, man. But yeah, that goes to say the project's been great. I'm really enjoying it. And everybody I end up teaching, so we always have like work experience students or MSc, BSc students. And because I've been at the wall since it basically opened in 2015, I know my way around and I know the right people to communicate with or if I need help with something. So
starting off, you're in a really good position.
Yeah, so I was in everything. Just the ball just was rolling from the get go. So my supervisor
that can be the awful part at the start where you're like, you just don't know how anything works and you feel so stupid just because you don't know how things work.
Yeah, I think it's nice because I kind of relate to that as well because I did my PhD. Well, because I'm doing my PhD in the same lab that I worked with for over a year. The start of my PhD was so much smoother than everyone around me and all the people that I'd met because they're literally getting to know everything, and I'm there like, oh, I already know everyone. It's all cool. I'm really comfortable here. So that's nice. Fun story. You know, Ricky nearly had my project.
Yeah, do you want me to tell you about that?
One of the ones that failed.
You know, one of the ones that I withdrew application from.
It was my project.
No way.
So I applied for the MRC DTP program, and there was a project that really took my eye, and it was one with Sandrine in nutrition and neurogenesis, and I was like, well,
intermittent fasting.
I train a lot. I train a lot, and I keep track of my nutrition and everything like that. And obviously, I'm a neuroscientist, so I applied for it, and I was shortlisted for interview. And one of the interview requirements was they give you 3 research articles and to like critique them in the interview. And I was like really leaving it to last minute. And then just as Brad offered me the project, I sent the email saying, could I withdraw application? And then found out it was actually what Curie was wanting.
Yeah.
Oh
Not just wanting. It was the project that
was like...
It was like my baby.
And I
It was literally my project.
stole it from her hands.
We only put it in there because we got the funding. It was my project.
So when I found this out, we had a little laugh outside because it was outside in the summer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I was like, could you imagine if I took your project and was doing it right now?
No, the thing is, because the way we found out as well is you said something about, oh, you were going to do the DTP and you were going to do this project. And I was like, hang on a minute, that's my fucking project.
So that was really great.
Wait, so for our listeners...
So you might not even be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Actually, none of us probably would be, really.
Yeah. But, okay, so for the listeners out there, the reason why this is like, oh my God, is because in the program that I'm on, the projects are in a catalogue and the students choose which projects they want and then they interview for those for the program. Once you get on the program, you then decide which project you want to do. So regardless...
You didn't explain that well. I'm confused already.
Okay, basically there's a list.
There's a catalogue.
You interview for the program, you get the program, then you pick your project from a catalogue.
Okay. You explained that our way.
Sorry. And regardless of whether I had designed the project or not, if Ricky had been picked over me, he would have got the project. And Sandrine would not have been able to say no. Basically.
But if both of you had gotten the program,
then she'd have picked me.
Okay.
Wow! Have you seen how charming I am and how great my CV is?
Chill out. She would have picked me. So yeah, okay. So now
That's
we're talking about your
crazy.
project. What is your project? What are you researching, Ricky?
Wait, do I have any other questions to ask first before we move on? No, I don't think I do.
Why were you such a loser that didn't drink?
Who, me? Because
said that, not me.
that was very harsh.
Wasn't it? He
Which
told us
one?
already because he
I'm
was
sorry,
studying
guys.
his ass off to get into med school.
Drinking in school doesn't make you cool.
But drinking at uni does.
Although drinking at my school did make you cool.
Excuse me.
Do you have any more questions?
I'm trying to think. So I'm probably going to think of things when we move on.
That was I really enjoyed that, Ricky.
Yeah, that was really good. Like, your journey is like a journey.
Yeah.
Sometimes you talk to people and they're, oh, my journey, but it's not really a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know someone
yours
who
is like-
was like, I went for a PhD, got it, and I did it. And I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, okay, sick.
Was that you?
That's also me.
That's not me.
Mine was like...
I'm sorry.
I
was
also
like-
have a semi-journey.
fighting in the rainforest in a war, and then eventually picked up the golden egg, and then it broke in my hand. So I was like, shit, it's the fake golden egg, and then
Whereas
eventually found the real
Alice
golden
and
egg.
Jamalza, they're just going for a stroll in the woods and they're like, oh, a golden egg.
Yeah, and like, oh, look at this baby. You're like, fuck, why is my life not like that?
Yeah, sorry.
Anyway,
It's alright, Ricky, I had a journey too. Let's journey together.
Oh, dear God. Anyway. But yeah, cool.
Do you know what though? I find it really... Oh, I don't want to boost your ego. I find it really inspiring. that
Such a nice person.
I know. That you've gone from someone though who literally nearly failed all your A-levels to now doing a PhD. Because I think this is the thing, right? And also you didn't go to University of Leicester, right? You went to
yeah.
the
I went
Poly.
to the Poly ones
Yeah.
at De Montfort Uni.
And so I think, there's a big thing where
You think people just assume
people think
that you've always done well.
Exactly. And I just don't think that's the case.
No.
And I also, because this is something that really annoys me as well, because I also think this is a prime example of how your grades don't necessarily equate to how good you are at something practical, like the research or the actual work. Because my grades were always something that held me back a bit as well, and it was always something that was sort of held against my name, where I have been told as well for interviews where even if I performed really well in an interview, if they were tied between me and someone else, they would pick the person that had better grades. And I was kind of a bit like,
But it's because they don't know you as a person.
Yeah.
They have to go on something. So like,
exactly.
And like what you're saying, it's grades, but then it's also like determination and like passion and all that kind of thing, which is way more important sometimes than grades.
I do get it, because I say this as I'm saying this, I know that if I was in a position where I had to pick between two people who interviewed excellently, both of them, but one went to a better university than the other one, I probably would pick the one that went to the better
because
university.
it's the only thing that distinguishes.
Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day...
Which is shit sometimes.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything.
No. And that's why the world isn't fair.
No, but it is true, because I remember having a friend at school who went to Cambridge, like the Uni of Cambridge, and did history there, and then graduated with a 2-2.
Yeah.
And it was just completely pointless now for her to do, or to try and get any job. She wanted to do a law conversion course.
Yeah.
Whereas I had another friend who went to Uni of Leicester, did English literature, and got a first, and went straight into law conversion. Finished the super accelerated law degree in like 14 months.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
So it depends a lot on the individual, because I've always been that motivated kind of person and not lazy. So during my MSc, every single day I got up at 5 a.m. Monday to Saturday, or even Sunday. It didn't really matter, just to go and train and then go into the lab. So half the time I was in the lab at like 7:30 during my MSc project and finishing. And it was like repeat. Didn't have a social life, but back then, like, I wasn't getting a stipend or anything, so it was money I'd saved. So paid for my MSc myself from saving my student loan and living at home. So there was 9k gone, and then another like 9 or 10k on accommodation. So there was little things like that, because I always like planned ahead. I always feel like people now, they're like, which is fair enough, are like living in the now. They're like, yeah, this is so cool, so cool. So yeah, because of that, like, little phrase coming out and everything as well. But and then they go in like 3 to 5 years time and they're like, oh, I'm actually pretty fucked right now. Mum, dad. Well, not everybody's mum and dad are financially stable enough to support them in adulthood or support another adult. So yeah, it's very much a me thing.
Yeah.
But I've always been like that, like a stubborn asshole.
And look where it's got you.
Yeah, exactly. And people from school, I rarely keep in contact, but when I do bump into people, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm doing my PhD in neuroscience. And they're like, oh, shit. I was like...
You? PhD? What?
Yeah. What did you think? And they were like, oh... Because I was always, like, relatively smart in school, but it was always really boring, and it wasn't what interested me, because back then I had other priorities like cricket, whereas now it's just meeting friends, neuroscience, martial arts and teaching and stuff like that. So it works out fine.
Yeah. So, okay, so what is your project? What do you do?
So I do a project on amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, also known as motor neuron disease.
And how would everyone know what's the pop culture reference for ALS now? Well, not pop culture. Life. Viral trends.
It's old now,
One of the original challenges.
The ALS challenge.
The Ice Bucket Challenge.
Wasn't it also called the ALS challenge?
I don't know.
I'd say ALS Ice Bucket Challenge,
There
just
you
to
go.
be safe.
There, okay, perfect.
Did you do the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Yes, I did.
Did you do the Ice Bucket
I don't
Challenge?
think I did.
I did it. Demelza did it.
Did I? I think maybe someone threw ice at me, but it wasn't caught on camera.
That was just
a
being
mugging.
annoying. Fuck you.
That was just my friends being dicks. Yeah. I think that's what happened. And I was probably either drunk or hungover, because I think it was on holidays. Because it was a summer, wasn't it, when it all kind of came about? Yeah. So unfortunately, no, I didn't do it. But that's exciting. Anyway, now tell us more.
So, so I'm working on a gene which was discovered by
Okay, so first of all, what is ALS?
ALS is a motor neuron disease
Yeah.
which affects upper and lower motor neurons. So in your brain and in your spinal cord.
And now what are motor neurons for our listeners?
So motor neurons are the neurons which innervate the muscle directly. So signals are sent from the brain they whiz down, they hit the motor neuron gets excited, sends a signal to the muscle, and then the muscle contracts and something moves. So without the motor neuron, you don't get the muscle contracting. Or if you get excessive excitation of the motor neuron, you get constant...
Like spasms.
Yeah.
So, in short, motor neurons cause us to move.
Pretty much, yeah.
And continue.
So I'm working on a gene called Ananananananananananannexin 11 now.
Anananananananananannexin.
See, it was a really good idea, wasn't it?
Hang on, explain. I'm so outside the loop.
Okay, so
I was like, what?
about a year ago, or was it a year? It was a year
a
ago,
year
wasn't it? That I gave a talk just as I started my PhD as like this think and drink thing for the BCN PhD like gathering or something. But the issue was everybody was already pissed and had loads of beers, including me. Now, as a non-beer drinker, but as a whiskey drinker, it took 2 cans of Foster's for me to feel quite bitter, bitter as well, but to feel quite pissed. So I was like, whoa, giving this talk. And at the end, I, because my gene's called Ananexin, at the end, I put Batman and I put Anananananananananannexin. And every time I said Ananexin, they have to take a drink. So it's a drinking game.
Oh, that's actually
But a
quite
year
good.
on,
Yeah.
it's stuck because loads of people have still come up to me and said that now. And when I gave a talk at the ALS forum, somebody came up to me after and they were like, every time you said Ananexin, I wanted to take a drink. I was like, you were at my talk. You were at my talk. And that was only like 3 months ago.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So you gave a talk while a bit pissed and then worked in Anananananexin.
Yeah.
And now
You know,
everyone-
that is literally, though, the only reason why I know what gene you work on. Because of the...
That's all I needed.
I mean, that's like a marketing,
Yeah,
really,
it was good.
genius marketing.
You're welcome. You're welcome, guys.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I know.
But yeah, so
What
I
does
work.
the gene do?
So Ananexin 811 is a calcium-dependent phospholipid membrane-bound protein, which is
Okay.
what is said in journal articles. Basically, what that means is
Such a natural, isn't
It
it?
really is.
it needs calcium to do its work. That's pretty much it.
So, okay, is it the same... Okay, I'm just going to ask dumb questions. Is it the same calcium that we get from when we drink milk?
Yeah. So the same calcium, the same calcium that your neurons need to do what they do, which is fire, and your motor neurons do what they do for you to move and things like that. Now, the issue with this...
Calcium isn't just important for your bones.
Kids. So the issue with this gene is that there were mutations discovered in patient samples. So 5 familial, meaning that they're passed down from generation to generation, so in the family, and 1 sporadic, meaning it just appeared out
Pops
of
up whenever.
nowhere. Yeah.
And if there's a mutation, it would mean that then this membrane channel doesn't work properly.
Yeah, so the membrane protein doesn't work properly at all. So that resulted in neurodegeneration occurring, i.e. ALS, and the patients had symptoms and eventually passed away with ALS. So I'm working on that specific mutation to see, 1, what's going on with it, but 2, how specifically is the mutation causes degeneration of the neuron. So it's part of a descriptive project, but a lot of it actually recently is starting to become more mechanistic as to specifically at the molecular level, are we able to identify a pathway which results in neurodegeneration and ALS occurring, and then can we intervene to rescue what's happening, so make the mutation like the normal wild type protein which is found in healthy individuals. Then the final part is we've got a mouse model coming in, or a couple of mouse models, and then to try it all out in the mouse model and to validate my results. So far it's going good.
That sounds really exciting.
And it's super cool and interesting. Fingers crossed when the mice come I don't have another breakdown, because there's loads of mice, and having done mouse work before I know how grueling it can be. But I'm actually really excited for the whole project as a whole. And
I have a
people
question.
thought, go.
Do the mice have ALS?
The mice do have ALS.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
Or
so
mice.
sad.
Yes. For research purpose, of course.
Of course. Don't just go around giving random mice ALS.
On the tube. Come here, you.
Oh.
No, you know what? Joking aside, tube mice are really quick when you work with mice. So this is going to sound horrific, and feel free to edit this out. But
we're going to need an animal warning.
Okay, where is this? Okay, if you don't like animal research, please stop listening now.
So
if we even keep this in,
mice with ALS, they're basically their hind limbs, the back legs can't move. So it's safe to say they don't really run around or move very fast. Whereas when you're like on the tube platform and you see a mouse, you like look up like that and it scurries across.
That's
and you're like,
it's
oh
got
fuck.
4 working legs.
Exactly. So ALS mice are like easier to work with that way. But then when you have a mouse in your own home, you're like, fuck, it doesn't have ALS. Like, how am I going to catch this absolute fucker?
Oh my god! I love how that's your thought when you have a mouse in your home.
Genuinely
Not,
is.
oh fuck, I have a mouse in my home.
I was
You're
like,
this mouse doesn't have ALS.
this little bastard doesn't have ALS. How do I catch him?
Oh god.
But yeah,
Just use the sticky mats and it will recreate ALS for you.
Nah,
really.
but they're smart these days.
But they won't have legs.
Mice are very intelligent.
Please don't use the sticky mats, people. They're horrible.
We did have when I worked on the drug trial, we had a really obese mouse. So mice tend to be from like 26 grams to about 30 grams tops. This guy was an absolute beast at 56 grams.
That's nearly twice the weight they should
Yeah.
Oh my
Could
god.
he move?
We're not sure if he was just fat or had ALS.
Oh god.
But no, he could. He was on the water treatment as well. So
there
he was the
no
control
reason-
group.
Maybe something else happened to him.
It was weird. He was like, yeah, it was
Maybe
so
it's
strange.
multi-mutations.
We don't know. We hope not. But yeah, I named him Thor. Because I once touched his cage and got a static shock.
Oh, that's cute.
So he must have been like
Thor.
a god.
And then we had another fat one.
So he's not fat, he's just hinge.
I mean, when you tried to scruff him, which is like pick them up in order to look at them, I just got a lot of back fat.
I can imagine.
And
Don't listen, Ricky, this is 2019. No need to body shame the mouse, okay?
The poor mouse.
Curves
mean-
are beautiful.
Fat people have feelings. Fat mice have feelings.
obesity's obesity.
Obesity kills.
I'm sure his pancreas was stuffed.
Oh, bless him.
But yeah, that's the fat mouse.
A really stupid question.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
I don't know if we should keep this in the podcast.
This part.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay, so you know you said your fat mouse had ALS.
Yeah.
Do you get fat people with ALS?
I'm not sure.
Because no,
I
no,
doubt
worry,
it.
because
No,
I've
so
never seen
actually I don't
someone
think so
with
because
any- I've
Well,
never-
it will cause one of the side effects, or not side effects, but it would be muscle wasting. Wouldn't it?
yeah, so
you'd
muscle
be, like-
wasting, but also hypermetabolism
That's
as well.
what I'm saying.
Because
See?
of the muscle
Silent
wasting.
Demelza pulled a face at me, but in my head, I'd never seen a fat person with ALS.
Well, I wouldn't really have seen many people with ALS.
Well, okay.
Like, surely
on
they're like housebound or in hospitals.
on
or,
like TV and stuff.
you don't even see that many people on TV with ALS.
Okay, well,
You're
in
just thinking of Stephen Hawking in the Simpsons and then on Big Bang Theory.
that's the
and...
thing. In my head, someone with ALS isn't fat.
No, they're not. It's because all the muscle wasting that goes on as well.
Why would we need to cut that out of the podcast?
I don't know, because it makes me sound weird.
You are weird.
Well, if you want, you can cut that a little bit out. But I think up until there, it's fine.
Did we need to cut that out? Okay, cool. We'll keep that in.
Did that make sense though in my project?
Yeah, I do have a few questions. So,
Oh, God.
back to the... No, I just want
Oh no! Wait, sorry. Go on.
So pointless.
What was that?
Nothing.
So, back to the membrane protein.
Yes.
So, the mutation is in the gene that creates that membrane protein.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you know what that membrane protein does?
So it's not too well identified or
Okay.
discovered in literature to begin with. The paper that Brad published to do with ALS is the first of its kind. So I'm pretty much looking in the dark. But luckily there are other annexins. So this was A11, if you remember me saying. So it goes from A1 all the way to A13,
Okay.
different annexins. And
And do they know what the other annexins do?
Yeah, so they're mainly involved in membrane damage repair. So in the cell, you have the round cell, the nucleus inside. If you think of the outside of the cell as the membrane, when that's damaged, what happens is the annexins flood in and they go to the site of damage and then they recruit other molecules in order to assist with the repair of the membrane. Once the membrane's repaired, i.e. plastered or bandaged, they dissociate and break off and then we're all good.
Ah, that's interesting as well then, because the fact that it is then, like, that it's an annexin that the mutation...
You're singing the song, aren't you? You're so singing the song.
Do you know what? I can't focus because every time you say it, I'm like...
Okay, so the fact that it's a repair of damage, it might be something that repairs damage in the cell membrane, and that then the mutation in it is causing ALS. That would kind of make sense because it might be that there's damage happening and then this can't fix it. Ooh.
Potentially, yeah. And you've stumbled some part on a hypothesis that I came up with to my supervisor.
So with our listeners, we like to get them to understand really how what we do in research and how it works, right? All the techniques and stuff. Mm-hmm. So at the moment you're doing cell work, right?
That's
so
right.
How exactly does it work that you can look at this mutation or a certain genes or this certain protein in your cells?
So we have someone who does a neuron prep in rat brains, so the cortical element of the brain. So we get these cells.
What's the cortical element?
Just the cortex.
People won't know that.
Oh.
It's just a brain region.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't really know that, to be fair.
So just the cortex of the brain without the cerebellum. So if you count the cerebellum as like the mini brain, mm-hmm. and then your brain stem, we're not using any of the brain stem itself, any of the cerebellum. It's just the actual main part of the brain consisting of the major lobes.
So if you told someone to imagine what a brain is, what they see.
Yeah, pretty much.
The two wrinkly bits that are kind of joined together.
Yeah, we're just looking at the giant wrinkly bit. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah. Lay language.
Oh
God, that went fast.
Oh no.
Okay, 5 minutes. Let's wrap it up.
Oh my God.
No,
keep going. We'll just cut out.
We can because there are bits we can.
Yeah.
What happens is, we're given these cells and they're put into a special solution or feeding media or mixed nutrition. I then bring out a plate and have like
not like a dinner plate. It's like a little plastic.
Yeah, like a
Petri dish.
Plastic.
Yeah,
like a Petri dish that's divided like loads of times. So there's 12 or 24 individual wells, mm-hmm. and in each of these wells I put a glass little cover slip. I then put my cells on top of that, mm-hmm. and then throw it in an incubator.
And your cells are these motor neurons.
Yeah, or these neurons or cortical neurons mm-hmm. itself. So they then grow for about 6 days. So I keep looking at them.
And you can't literally throw cells in the incubator; they will die.
Oh, I
you
place
them gently
slowly
into the incubator.
And then for the next 6 days, you feed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feed, have a look at them. Then what I do is I get a DNA from whatever my gene has, or my gene basically. So the wild type normal one and the mutated one. And then I essentially inject that in, or we call it transfecting in. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say inject. Inject it in, leave it for 24 hours, have a look the next day. And then fix my cells, which means that arrest them in what they are. So we use paraformaldehyde or...
Just like basically the human form would be when you preserve a dead body.
So just preserving my cells in how they are. And then from then on, I start my like staining protocol, which just involves steps of using various antibodies. The main aim is one of the antibodies at the end to have a giant fluorescent light mm-hmm. on it. So when I put it under the microscope, under a specific laser, under a specific wavelength, mm-hmm. it shines back, and that's why I end up seeing the image of.
And the antibodies will attach to specific parts.
Yep.
So then the more you know that one is shining, the more of that part you'll know is in there.
That's correct.
Interesting.
So you have these antibodies and you'll be able to see how much of this certain thing is in your cells, right?
Yeah.
So then how do you go from that to then doing animal stuff?
So from there, that's the descriptive stage. So that is a case of what's it doing at 7 days? And then if I let my neurons grow longer, does it do something different? Is there anything time dependent? And if we can see that, that's very visual and descriptive. Another thing is doing that and running it on a protein gel. So what happens is when you get this sample, run it on a protein gel, the gel is designed to separate all of these bands, mm-hmm. and you know how heavy your sample is because there's databases and things like that to tell you. What you can then do is cut out that band and send it off for a mass spec. And in that mass spectroscopy, which is what the fancy people in the chemistry and proteomics department do, is they throw the sample, ionize it, put it against a detection, and they find out what else it can bind to. So the important thing about that is if it binds to something else, then it could be involved in moving from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, or it could be more involved in moving from the giant cell body all the way down the axon of the neuron itself, depending on what it could be bound to. And then that's how we look into things more mechanistically. Then from then on, we take the two, so the descriptive understanding of where it is, or annexin is, the potential mechanism once we validated it, and try that in the mouse model by harvesting the brain from the mice, and then plating neurons as we did with the rat cortical neurons. It's more of a real mouse model because they already have the mutation that I'm working on in, and they've grown up with that.
So now you'll see if if you can see the same thing as you saw in something where you literally did it yourself, to then a more natural model where you've taken it from something with ALS.
That is it. And then the next stage would be trying to reverse that. Can we rescue what we're seeing?
Yeah.
And then from then on, can we develop any sort of therapeutics we can offer to the mice? Do the mice respond to this? If they do, brilliant. Can we do it again, maybe in a different model? And then it goes to potentially into clinical trials. But that is often decades away.
Are you going to cure ALS?
That is the dream.
One man's dream.
That is the dream. But no, if I make any sort of...
Pretty cool dream.
I know, but if I make any sort of impact on this disease, which has been around for decades now and is a horrific neurodegenerative disease where patients tend to actually do pass away due to their respiratory muscles failing on them, then that'd be great if I identify any novel pathway or mechanism.
Doesn't ALS have like a really high suicide rate as well? Right, it's like the second
For
biggest
euthanasia.
cause of suicide.
Assisted.
Yeah.
After depression or something. I think it's one of the highest causes of suicide, ALS, because it's so fast.
It is rapidly progressing,
What's like the average age of onset of ALS? Do you know?
60s, it tends to be, so quite
So
late
when
age.
Stephen Hawking got it was quite young.
Yeah, there are some rare...
But look how long he can live when you have money.
Wow.
Just saying, guys.
Demel's is shaking her head.
Stephen Hawking was
There are some rare occasions where
I'm
it
gonna get
actually
told
happens
off
in
by someone.
teenagers. Rare mutations
that's
have
so
been
sad.
found in juvenile cases.
Oh, God.
So I think the youngest was like early teenage years.
Oh, Jesus.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
And is the annexin mutation that you're working on, is that one of the, you know, the way you said there's 5 familial lines of inheritance or whatever, and then one is sporadic?
Yeah.
Is the thing you're working on all of those things combined, or is it just one?
So they would have the same sort of common pathway.
Okay, and
In
it
terms of
causes
what's happening,
it all
yeah.
causes a like defect in the
Yeah.
annexin 11.
Exactly. So all the other mutations that occur in annexin as well,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this one because it had the highest amount of mutations occurring. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't neglect the other ones. I'm only focusing on this because it has more. But also the mechanistic pathway it has could be applied across the board.
To the rest.
So this mutation I'm working on for another one, it could be the same mechanism of action, and another one it could be the same thing. It's just the different mutations causing different something.
Causing different shit.
Maybe by
That's
slightly
it.
different ways.
I lost the word then, yeah.
Yeah. That's so fascinating.
Maybe, like, this is a weird way to put it, but I think that's one of the things that makes ALS so interesting. Because it's so, like...
Devastating.
Yeah.
That's
So-
a funny thing, like in nearly every single journal, I say this very loosely, but
Yeah.
I'd say like over 80% of journal papers you read, their introduction will start with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is a severe neurodegenerative disease, which this symptom onset, this, or is a devastating neurodegenerative disease. And they'll almost all of them will start like that.
Yeah.
And it, after like, I haven't done it that long compared to like what people have been in the field at all. But since doing it since like 2014 or 2013, I can like remember things like that off the top of my head and like little things about certain genes and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty brutal when you see it. And some of the like profs who have clinic, they've seen like great-grandfathers, grandfathers, fathers, and even their children all come through clinic over a period of 20 years and all pass away. Yeah, it can be quite brutal.
That is very brutal. That means that that's a very good thing that you're working on.
Well done, Ricky.
Yeah.
But no pressure.
You go. Although I did want to ask, and this is completely off topic, and you were talking about, and also there's two things. Number one, martial arts. I'm interested in that. And number two, the stuff about
What are you doing tonight?
What is Ricky doing tonight that I wasn't allowed to know about?
What, do you want me to answer first?
This episode, and I was like, no, Ricky, you can't tell her what you're doing tonight because it's part of who you are. I need to know.
Look at her, she's losing it. Which one do you want to know first? The martial arts?
Me. No, actually, now that I'm on a roll with this, you need to tell me what this thing
So
is.
I'm going to meet my friend in London Bridge at a pub, and I smoke cigars. And I drink whiskey. So I'm
Like
part of a whiskey
every
club
night?
and a cigar.
Stop.
Yes.
No.
So I've got my own little humidor.
What's a humidor?
Where you keep your cigars in at set humidity and temperature.
Humidor.
Stop. For some reason, I thought it was a hat.
Yeah.
Do you know what though? Because
Hang on. Wait, I have more questions.
This is going to be like a 3-hour episode.
How did you get into cigars?
So it was just by chance, actually. It was during my... Was it during my breakdown year? No, it was the year before. 26. I see it this way.
I turned to cigars.
You smoked a cigarette and you're like, I need something stronger.
So actually, it was in 2016 where I was with a friend, and he was just like, "Hey, do you want to go try a cigar?" And we went just to like the Hippodrome Casino in Central, and we bought these cigars for like, they were the cheapest ones there, like 14 quid each, and we smoked them. We were like, "This is pretty good." I was a research assistant then, so like 30 quid for a round of something with a whiskey wasn't too bad. Okay. And then we bought another round, and then he had, so he's part of this is going to make me sound like a massive wanker, but he's part of a private members club on Shaftesbury Avenue, which had cigar nights, and I'd always go to them. And there were tastings with like Mount Gay rum, there was like champagne, there was cognac, there was wine tasting, there was like anything under the board. But
were you
with
into
cigars,
whiskey anyway?
I was like, oh yeah, I did like whiskey. But when I knew what a cigar is and like the difference between a Cuban cigar and a New World cigar and this, that and the other, it became really interesting.
Tell me what's the difference.
So Cuban cigar tends to like change in flavour 3 times.
Okay.
Whereas a New World cigar tends to be like the same throughout,
the whole way.
dependent on like what they're made from. So it has a wrapper, binder and a filler in the cigar, and they can be from different parts of the world. So they tend to be from Cuba, or they can be from like Nicaragua, from like I had one that was Nicaraguan and Brazilian tobacco.
This is the Cuban we're talking about.
No, now it's on like the New World.
That's the New World.
So the Cuban ones tend to be just from there.
Okay.
And
but
then
they're
depending
the ones
on
that change in flavour.
yeah, the Cuban ones change in favour.
Interesting.
You know, I've talked about this. I think I might have said this to Miles before as well. Whereas, like, if I knew anyone else who smoked cigars every night and put pics, like, posted it on Instagram all the time, and his Instagram stories was just whiskey and cigars, I'd think they're such a douchebag. But because you're so into it in such a like almost nerdy way, it's actually quite endearing.
But that's what got me into it, because it was like more of a fascination. So I had a tasting with Brooklady whiskey, which is my most favourite whiskey from Scotland. And the girl that came down, her brand ambassador, was like talking about how they do mass spec and high pressure liquid chromatography and this, to find out the parts per million. So Brooklady, the Octomore range, is the world's most peatiest whiskey, which means it's the most smokiest.
The one that, are those the ones that taste like petrol?
Yeah, pretty much. And they measure the peatiness in parts per million. So it's actually done scientifically and correctly in a lab.
Oh, wow.
Excuse me, God. So yeah, when I was asking her, and it was like, oh, it was great. But there was a tasting with 3, I remember that night so distinctly, surprisingly. There was 3 whiskies, and their whiskey starts at 47% ABV.
Oh my God.
And then the next one was 52, and then the final one was 59.
Holy shit.
So by like the second one, me and my friend were like, we can't see straight.
Oh my God.
But it was so good, great
Do you
night.
drink it straight?
Yep.
I really
No water?
No.
I really hate that petrol whiskey. My brother had this bottle that he got for my dad for his birthday yesterday. I'm going to butcher the name.
Lafroig.
Yeah. Okay.
She's like, thank God he knew.
Because that's like super strong and like...
Yeah, I love the
super-
Lafroig quarter cask.
and
So good.
It's just...
Oh, it's delicious.
So I had so my brother gave some to my dad ages ago, and then my dad was like, just try it, and I was like, okay, I don't like whiskey at all, and it was disgusting, but it was honestly the smoothest drink I've ever had.
Yeah, so Lafroig's quite a like harsh drink to start on because of the peatiness. Like
literally pure petrol, like pure petrol in my mouth.
I keep on my desk downstairs Glenmorangie 10-year whiskey, so it's just in the box on the bottle at the back. So I was like, oh, it's Friday today. Oh, it's Monday and I've had a shit day.
Oh, it's Tuesday.
Oh, it's lunchtime. This is a problem. A problem that I'm okay with.
That is hilarious.
But yeah, that's that.
I had another question. I can't remember. Oh. Okay, really dumb question. And about whiskey, not about cigars. What's whiskey made from?
Oh.
Does anyone know?
Hops.
No, that's beer, is it not?
I don't know.
Like Guinness is made from hops.
Is
That's
it
a good
hops?
point. What's like the raw
Is it
spirit they start
potatoes?
with?
Is it hops?
Will you be quiet? Give her a moment.
Wow.
Hops and barley.
Oh, we did get one right.
Barley.
Yes. It says
Wheat.
it's made from fermented grain mash. Various grains.
Oh yeah, grain fermentation. I go to whiskey tastings and they say this all the time.
And then you're just
And I
like,
know.
"Ah."
I just
I
don't
know
listen.
that,
I'm just getting pissed.
I know that the aging of the whiskey is really important.
Yeah.
And it depends on like the type of wood that the barrels are made.
Yeah.
Oh, I know a whiskey fact. I watched Sunday Brunch.
Go! I feel like I've turned into the host.
So yeah, okay. They were saying this. They were like that when you actually distill whiskey, it's clear, and it only turns into whiskey when you put it in barrels. So you can actually drink. They had all these different whiskeys to be tasted, and one of them, he was like, you can't actually call it whiskey, but it's like the parent alcohol or whatever before it's been aged in a barrel, and they just took that. They call it a botanical liquor, but they can't call it whiskey. And it was clear, and then he was like, these other ones have been aged.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's all I know about whiskey.
I saw this, I think when I went on the Brewdog tour, because the Brewdog started bringing out like vodka and gin and stuff.
Oh god.
I think. And they were saying that
He's just like, no.
the base spirit, like the base alcohol for like vodka, gin and whiskey is pretty much the same. Maybe
Vodka. It is vodka, I think.
I think it is vodka.
Yeah,
The
and
base
then,
for gin is vodka.
and then they just like whatever they put in afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is what makes gin.
That's what I heard as well. But it's true about the whiskey thing. So I've had a whiskey that's been matured in a sherry cask, which has the red tinge to it.
Oh, wow.
And I've had an Australian whiskey matured in a wine cask, and I think it was like Chardonnay or something like that. And it does taste like a sweet white wine, and you can really tell the difference. But these are like whiskey bottles that probably cost like a few £100.
Oh, wow.
And so when I go to like the whiskey, I'm also part of a whiskey club. I also go to
Such a douchebag.
such a dickhead. It's great.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, you don't come across
You're
as
just
a
so
dickhead.
into it in a nerdy way
Yeah,
that
it's great.
cute.
Go on.
Stop it. So they have it there, so which is like really nice because the pricing is more manageable than
Yeah.
it would be anywhere else. Like I'd rather try a whiskey for like £13 for a measure than pay £300 for the bottle and
Yeah.
not like it
yeah.
any day.
100%.
Saying that, I did find out a few weeks ago they have a £1,000 a dram whiskey. So just over little bit over a measure is a dram, and it's £1,000 ago. It's from 1920 something. So the story behind it was there was one more bottle available from the barrel. So this guy who worked in the distillery filled up the bottle. The barrel was like empty now, so there was that whiskey done. Buried it behind a wall and sealed up the wall. And only when they demolished the whole distillery, they found this random bottle. And they took it out and it went for auction for a ridiculous price. The guy who owns the whiskey club bought it and it goes for £1,000 a dram.
Mad. This is like, I went to this bar once and they had a rum on there that was really expensive as well. It was like close to £1,000 for a single of rum. And the story is really similar, where it was like this last bottle of rum left and they found it on a boat or something.
Yeah.
Obviously pirates. They found it on a boat, but it's literally the last bottle of rum and it's from like the 1920s or something as well. It's like super old, and they were selling it for like £800 for 25ml.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Imagine being rich enough to be like, oh yeah, I'll buy that for £1,000.
I gotcha.
But that's the
So-
end of my wankiness.
I have so much more questions, but I can't remember any of them.
What time are we on?
Well over.
We might have to cut out all our chat at the beginning.
Do cigars make you kind of high?
Oh god, yeah. So each cigar on average will have 200 milligrams of nicotine in.
And what would a cigarette have? Do you know?
A
Comparison.
tenth of that.
A 10, so
20, yeah.
20
From
grams.
20 or less.
So it's like smoking 20 or less less
so
cigarettes at once.
and that's just like a regulation size cigar, like this
But
big.
you don't inhale it,
Some of the
right?
ones,
So-
no, so it still goes through the mucous membrane of your mouth and through the saliva.
I bet you no one else in the cigar club knows that.
They might do. They do, no. So there are occasions where I've had like 3 cigars in a night and they've been strong ones, and then I've been in bed at like 4 a.m. like I can't sleep. And it's been like
Because
8
you're
a.m.
so
because
awake.
I'm
So
so buzzed
much
on nicotine.
nicotine.
Yeah. But the thing is,
Do they ever make you feel sick?
no. Only if I haven't eaten all day and I try smoking, and I've done that once and learned very quickly.
You know, when you walked in, you gave the game away a little bit because you sat down and Curie was talking about what time you needed to leave at.
I'm gonna go
and you were
smoke.
like, oh, I'm going to go meet a friend, we're going to smoke, and then we're going to go out. And
I bet you thought weed though.
I 100% thought weed. I was like, oh, interesting, he's a stoner. Like,
Yeah.
that's so funny. I would not.
Curveball.
It was such a curveball. Such a curveball.
See?
I really enjoyed that.
This is
curveball.
why we told you to not say anything.
Yeah, it worked well.
Cooler than
Look how
I was.
excited she got.
Yeah, I got so excited.
But yeah, that's the whiskey and the cigar thing.
That's so interesting.
So you went from being a failure at school to being
You sound like my mum.
you went from being a fuck up at school to being a sober hard worker to being a failure at employment to
He wasn't a failure in employment. He was a failure in securing a PhD.
let me get to the end.
He had employment.
Let me just get to the
Never
end.
coming
okay?
here again.
To being a failure to employment, then getting employed, then being a failure to get a PhD, then getting a PhD, and now look at you living your best life, right? Living
a
the high
whiskey and
life
cigar
on whiskey
connoisseur.
and whiskeys and cigar, and doing your PhD that you love. Look at that.
Oh, and I teach, isn't it?
Yeah, success story. Oh yeah, you're like a black belt in some shit.
God, you really hate me deep down.
Black belt in.
What do
So
you-
I do a Filipino martial art called Rapidanis,
Oh wow.
which is a weapons-based art with sticks, knives, things like that.
Oh wow.
And I got
God.
my first degree senior black belt in 2017. And I go for my second degree black belt in May this
So
year.
you teach that as well.
So I teach. So I've got a class at London Bridge.
Oh nice.
So if we got any young people listening, doesn't matter if you fuck up at school.
You can end up like Curie.
Roasted.
We'll edit that out.
I'm glad.
confused.
I'm glad you got
No,
a bit
hang
of a
on.
comeback.
Wait, hang on. I'm confused though.
Because you were about to be like, but like Ricky, you can get through it all.
Yeah, no,
so
but
he
I
flipped it around on you.
but I was ending it on a compliment.
Yeah, but he's just saying that everything you've said in the last while has been a insult veiled as a compliment.
That's true. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're not.
No, do you know what? Okay, I'm being honest now.
Yeah.
Hand on heart. This episode was actually genuinely that first bit with your story was actually really inspiring.
It was inspiring.
Yeah,
I thought that too.
I think it was really really good. Also,
Demelza shed a tear.
you were so good at explaining some of the lay things that me and Demelza gave each other an impressed like, look at one point.
Yeah, I think that comes through the teaching. So the martial arts stuff, when you give people
He's off on one
weapons,
again, isn't he?
but
Will
when
you stop? You were doing well for a minute there.
you can edit this out, shut the fuck up.
That was meant to be
Yeah.
the closing statement of the podcast.
Well, we'll let him say this,
All right,
and then
go
we'll do
on
the
then.
closing.
So in martial arts, when you give people weapons or even a stick, they turn into big retard under the fucking sun. And I've met some fucking retarded people while teaching. I remember one person, I was like, hit like this, and instead of using the stick, he tried to use his other hand. I go, no, you've got a stick for a reason. And he was like, ugh, he went to punch, and I was like, no, mate.
So you're just gonna hold the stick, and let that get in the way.
I was like, it's
and
not a
try
giant
and
fucking
punch.
incense stick, and I know I'm brown, but shit, I wouldn't give you that. But yeah, it comes through. You have to really break things down for people. So even if I'm teaching someone a 3-beat movement, with it, whether it be with a knife or empty hand or with sticks or 2 sticks, then you really have to put it to a stupid level of do this, do that, do this. And the best teaching tool that I developed was not talking at all and just showing someone and just doing it, letting them see again, and then coming around and correcting. And that's the thing, like, I got because in Rapid Artist there's 2 black belts. There's a junior at 2016 that I did in 2016 and a senior black belt at 2017. And the whole point of that is to see your level of progression through teaching, and you should be able to expand, develop, and interpret like different teachings as well, and cater to everybody. So there's been sessions where I've had a black belt in my class and somebody in their first session, and I've still been able to teach because that's how we're like brought up through the ranks.
Yeah.
and to be able to fight, like, is quite a big thing in rapid harness, which is fun, and get pissed and drunk, like, loads. That's why I started it at uni. I started it when I was like 19.
That's so
These like love to drink and hit each other. I'm going to do this.
Fitness and
I'm like, oh shit, now I'm an instructor dealing with retards every day. No, not really. Good job, Demelza.
I have 1% battery. We have to wrap this
Oh,
up.
Okay, it's been fun, guys.
I couldn't get it off.
It's been a great episode.
I couldn't get the thing off.
Oh, fuck. What on earth?
Okay, should we?
Okay.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram on @LayItOutPodcast. You can email us on layoutpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much, Ricky, for being on.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.